Alrighty, let's get into something a little less somebody aimed a gun at Trumpy. Let's talk about politics as usual. Did you know that Trump has announced his vice president? At least the person that he wants as vice president? We'll go ahead and talk about that. But first, let's go ahead and get into the fan art section before we get into that specifically. This first one here is from T.S. Smith. Said, I decided that a quick low-effort sketch wasn't enough and decided to make the Rogue 3D printer in Blockbench with a basic little animation and quick textures. So apparently my 3D printer going rogue that one time is now doing this. That's kind of cool, honestly. I'm not even going to lie. That's really cool. The next one we have here is from Tanya, saying that I have finished it. I called it The Destruction of Hole-chan. So this is what that Slime Suris bottle was supposed to be a part of. The Slime Suris bottle is being absorbed into Hole-chan. Maybe I wouldn't mind being absorbed into Hole-chan myself. It'd be a break from American politics. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. All that other fun stuff as a precursor to today's video. Thank you guys for showing all your wonderful fan art. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. That all said, let's move into the next part of things. Before we get into this, actually, before we get into Donald Trump saying that J.D. Vance was going to be his vice president nominee, we should get into what Nick Fuentes, of all people, believed about this particular scenario, saying that it couldn't happen. Remember, people like Fuentes really liked Donald Trump because he was based and white and racist like them.
J.D. Vance also...
We'll also have to increase the volume on this because, of course, it's Twitter. Here we go.
...has a non-white wife, an Indian wife, and a kid named Vivek. All his kids have Indian names. So it's like, what exactly are we getting here? And that's not a dig at him just because I'm a racist or something. But it's like, who is...
It's 100% a dig at him because he's a racist. You don't go, your kids have Indian names, without being a little fucking racist, Nick.
Is this guy really? Do we really expect that the guy who has an Indian wife and named their kid Vivek is going to support white identity? Like, there's a white genocide going on in the world. White people are being systematically replaced in America and Europe through immigration and, to a much lesser extent, due to intermarrying.
Remember, these psychopaths truly believe that white people will stop existing because we got fucked out of existence. Let's just ignore the fact that it's okay to get laid by somebody who's not white. That's an all right thing to do. It's okay. Elander says he just says that openly now. Now? Nick Fuentes has been saying this openly for years. It's why he got banned on Twitter. He's been saying this kind of shit openly forever.
This guy has a non-white wife and a kid named Vivek. This guy is going to be a defender of white identity? I don't think so. This guy's going to defend American identity? If he does, it's going to be no better than any of these other civic nationalists like Vivek Ramaswamy. How else could you countenance American identity if you have a mixed up family like that?
The family's mixed up because one of the people in the family is brown. That's all. That's all it takes to people like Nick Fuentes. That's how he described J.D. Vance's marriage. Because instead of focusing on how well he might do politically or things he said or done, he focuses on who he puts his dick in. That's it. She doesn't get a name or anything in there. The kid gets a name, Vivek. All she is, as far as Nick Fuentes is concerned, is a non-white fleshlight that pops out kids. And that's bad. Because, hey, Nick, I'll do your job better for you. I'll be a racist for you quickly. You could have viewed this as a white man dominating somebody of a different race. You could have gone there. It was so much easier to take the racist route, but you decided to go the more complicated one. How could he possibly talk about white identity while fucking a non-white? You went that route. I'm just saying there were other ways you could have gone. There were other methods you could have used. And I bet you, here in a while, if Nick Fuentes doesn't remember his previous take on here, he may swap it to something similar to the one that I just hyperbolically threw out there. But let's go ahead and see some other things that have happened. Here's an interesting bit. Let's look at what JD Vance has to say about Donald Trump, or did say about Donald Trump. I figure that might actually give us a little bit of insight into how he's going to operate with everybody's favorite Hitler-adjacent socialite.
This is an evolution, and I know you've been asked about this before, about past comments that you've made about Donald Trump. You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible. Those are things that Isn't
it super weird that those are the words that JD Vance had for who Donald Trump was up until the point that he was offered a seat at the table? Isn't that so strange? Is that so weird? I think that's kind of weird. I think that's a little bit awkward. I think it shows that he's a spineless moron. That's what I think. As opposed to Nick Fuentes' position of, he fucked a brown person, that's bad. I think it's more confusing to me that this person has shown that they do not have a spine. Instead of standing by the opinion that Trump is actually bad for the country, he instead decided that, no, I'm gonna go the other route. I'm gonna ignore everything I've said and every platform I've stood on because they were convenient to me at the time, and instead, I am now with Trump. So much with Trump, I am his vice president. Okay. Weird. Also, let's go ahead and talk about how many times Trump has said that Project 2025 isn't the thing that he's trying to enact. Isn't it weird that JD Vance said this?
And I want to thank especially Kevin Roberts and all of the Heritage Foundation for 50 years of incredible work on conservative policy. The old famous, and I want to thank especially Kevin Roberts and...
Man, that's just kind of weird. Remember, he doesn't know what Project 2025 is. But the Heritage Foundation, the people who wrote the damn thing, definitely, let's go ahead and congratulate them. Every single one of you who is conservative voting for Trump because you think that Agenda 47 is going to be some actual replacement for Project 2025, and that it's not just pure on allegorical for the other, I'm sorry that each one of you have been fed hook, line, and sinker this lie. I truly pity every single one of you. But my pity is starting to run very, very thin. I'm starting to get to the point where I can't care that much anymore. Every single one of you have access to the internet. Every single one of you have the ability to pull the sheep's clothing out, or the sheep's wool out from over your eyes. And instead, for those of you who decide to vote for Donald Trump anyway, for some strange reason, I'm just going to sit here and wonder, were the rights of people who I care about not worth it to you? Did they not matter to you? Did you not think about them as you cast that vote in the ballot box? It wasn't some far-off person that you don't know. It was my girlfriend, whose rights you signed away at the ballot box. Was that an okay thing for you to do? Did you feel like that was worth it? For you? This isn't aimed at anybody in particular. But if the people I'm referencing in particular are watching it, maybe it is. Who knows? But don't worry. JD Vance, on his own, has some wonderful words to say about people in abusive relationships. This is our possibly future vice president, everybody.
And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that, like, well, okay, these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term. And maybe it worked out for the moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids of those marriages. And I think that's what...
Stay in violent marriages. In no uncertain terms, this psychopath wants you to stay in a violent marriage. For the children's sake, you understand. Because surely if the daddy is beating your ass, he'll never touch the kid. As somebody who grew up in an abusive relationship with an abusive stepfather, this is appalling. Now, while my stepfather, not my current one, mind you, the one I grew up with, had the brains to never lay a goddamn finger on me, he did make it to where I was not allowed to talk outside of my room in the house. Even little things like calling my dog's name were viewed with disdain. You know why? I was interrupting his reading. You know what reading he was doing that was so important? He was reading opinions on internet forums about the Florida Gators. That's what was so important. That's why I had to stay in my room all the time. I didn't grow up with family dinners. That wasn't a thing. I ate every meal in my room alone, because that was the household I grew up in. And then I got to go to school in Pensacola Christian Academy, where I was further not allowed to speak until the last 5 minutes in the lunchroom, or until very specific days during recess. But if the teacher arbitrarily called it PE that day, you better not speak to anybody during dodgeball. You better not speak to anybody during kickball. That would be bad. God wouldn't like that. He'll send you to hell. As somebody who grew up with an abusive stepfather, J.D. Vance, kindly consume an infested cock from a dead and long since rigor mortis laden corpse. And I sincerely hope there are no less than 5 diseases in that cock. If you prefer asshole, that is an option you can take as well. Hell, any part of the infested body is A-okay by me. But from one kid who grew up dealing with an abusive stepfather and has a lot of really weird thoughts about how and when I'm allowed to speak as a result, fuck you. And kindly go eat a dick. Insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.